People are born soft and weak. They die hard and stiff. All things, such as grass and trees, are soft and supple in life. At their death, they are withered and dry. So the hard and stiff are death's companions. The soft and weak are life's companions. Therefore, the unyielding army will not win. The rigid tree will be felled. The rigid and big belong below. The soft and weak belong above. Lao Tzu. Bending Not Breaking. The Legend of Korra. Book 1. Episode 10. Turning the Tides.
Welcome back to another episode of Bending Not Breaking, the live version, where we are talking about The Legend of Korra. You heard it from the title card. I don't know why I repeat that every time, but I do. And so we are on episode 10. Very exciting. We're coming close to the end of season 1. Last time we talked about legacy and thinking about the things we inherit, how the past is continuing to constantly shape the present in ways that sometimes those are cycles that we don't like, and sometimes we can interrupt them and change. Today, as we discuss, Republic City, definitely under attack here. Characters have tons of choices that they have to make. We have to figure out, what do we surrender to? What do we let go of? What do we hold on to? There's retreats, there's patience, there's all kinds of cool things. And my wonderful co-hosts and I will be exploring this episode through a lens of yielding. To yield. When to give, when to make room. How do we discern the difference between when and how we do that? And of course, the element today, if you've been following along, you guessed it, is fire. That's right, folks. Fire. Great guess. Great guess. So let's get started. This is Bending Not Breaking. Kelly, you chose yielding.
Yes.
What, why, what? Tell us. Give us the deets.
Um, well, I feel like, we'll get into it, but I feel like this episode is a retreat and like kind of a big a big roadblock per se in the Avatar and Gang's fight against the Equalists. Like this is like a huge, this is like the time when people might say we give up or we quit. So, but I don't know. Yielding has just been on my mind, and like what that means, rather than just being like, you know, we're going to give up or we're going to let go or but what does it mean to yield?
That's a great
And
question. What does it mean to yield?
well, let's see. We got some definitions. I added some because I was like, I feel like it needs a little bit more explanation. But it could be like
Yeah,
yielding is something that's productive, right? Something that, a yield of crops, something lacking rigidity or stiffness, something flexible.
kind of like your
Um,
quote.
yes, that I totally messed up. Anyways, yeah, the rigid tree will be felled because it's bent. This is all bending, not breaking, right? We know all about this kind of thing.
That's kind
Uh,
of
the
right,
other
right? Yeah.
the other part of the definition that I put in there was someone or something that gives way to pressure, bends easily without breaking, huh,
Yeah.
complies with the wishes of others, or produces a productive return. So yeah, I definitely wanted to include the idea of yielding doesn't always mean, yeah, snapping under pressure or
hmm
completely giving way, but letting things pass.
Yeah. So I think what we're gonna probably get into is like yielding doesn't mean necessarily surrendering, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't mean turn your tail and run. And I feel like sometimes there's this connotation of it is to yield is to be weaker than or to not be as good as in some way, shape, or form. But that's clearly not true, as we have to imagine will happen. Um, Maggie, Rahul, any thoughts on yielding before we start
Yeah,
using
what do
it
you think of
to
my lens?
discuss?
So I think yielding is really interesting to me as an engineer because yield strength is defined as the point where if you are deforming or bending an object, it's the part where it stops deforming elastically and starts deforming plastically. And what that actually means
Oh,
is say you have a paper clip, right? Um, if you apply a little bit of force to the paper clip, put it on a piece of paper or something, if you remove it, a lot of the times it'll just spring back to its original shape, right?
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
But as we know, if you apply a little bit more force, you can open up the paper clip and it will not return back to its original shape. That
Very
is
mm,
familiar.
that is where it's exceeded its yield strength. So when you exert that force, it will not return back to its original shape. So
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, yield strength by definition is essentially bending, not breaking.
Ding,
Because
ding, ding.
when we get to ultimate strength, that is when actual fracture and breaking of the object starts. So I thought yielding was a very interesting lens
yes,
in
I
that
love it.
context.
I learned something
Mm.
new.
I was thinking about how I don't have experience in fencing, but like with the reading that I've done and a little bit of watching of fencing, how yielding is like pivotal in fencing, and it's not necessarily a lot of times people think of yielding as in like in more formal sword play where you yield your sword when you have been conquered, right? Or someone overpowers you and you have to yield your sword as a sign of respect and you're giving up your weapon, which is what I think a lot of people think of with yielding. But with fencing, it's much more complex and more related to what the quote was talking about how you have to be able to bend with it. So there's a yielding parry, and I just looked it up to make sure I was thinking about it. And it's where you don't block the attack with a hard stop, but you move the hilt to slide the blade away, right? So you're moving with the momentum instead of stopping in it. And it's not that you're giving up or even stepping back. It's just the force of creating that momentum and using the momentum that's already been created. And then there's also like the yielding glide, which I was thinking about too, is where you turn the hand so the blade actually slides along the weapon while accepting their pressure, right? So there's all of these points where it's sometimes the best form of strategy that you can have in this back and forth that you're having with your opponent, and it's not you necessarily retreating, right? Like it's a strategy that you're using to help, basically you're using less momentum and less force because you're using all of the force that your opponent has given to you. And we do that in the style of martial arts that we study a lot, so there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of parallels with that. But that was one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that kept popping up in my brain, especially because we don't usually call it yielding in the style that we do, but it is very
Mm.
similar to, we call it countering, but it is very much along the idea of that of not we don't block, we're not trying to stop
Mm-hmm.
it, but we're trying to create a different outcome than what they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
do to us without fully stopping that momentum.
Well, it's interesting too because fencing is debatably a lot less of a martial art and a lot more like a sport because
Mm-hmm.
fencing, and I think it's defined that way, but I think what's interesting about it is, and I didn't learn this until I learned how to fence. I've spent literally like 2 hours fencing in my entire life, so don't quote me on this. But fencing cares about the momentum of the attack. Like you can't score a point on a retreat.
Mm-hmm.
You can only score a
Mm-hmm.
point
Yeah, on
on
forward progression.
on forward progression. Exactly. And so the way that you counter matters, because if you use the momentum to not alter your direction, that means that you don't move forward by accident, and then it takes you outside of your ability to move forward on your next step. And so being able to yield and then step forward is a really beautiful way of referring exactly to Jing with King Boomy, and neutral Jing of letting the Fire Nation take over so that he could later take a step forward. And that is going to bring us to Avatar. No big deal or anything, but I was hoping nobody brought that up so that I could use it as a segue. But we're going to do a 30-second recap, and it is not my turn, which means it is Kelly's turn. Kelly, are you ready?
I'm so ready.
On your mark, get set, go.
Everyone regroups on Air Temple Island, and Asami voices to Mako what she knows happened between him and Korra. Ooh. Tenzin goes to the council meeting only to find that all the other members have been captured. He makes his way to the police station, but another ambush is laid for him and the officers. But Korra and the gang stop the force of Equalists, intent on taking Tenzin. But they come to see airships headed for Air Temple Island, and the White Lotus and Lin and the kids fend off the attacking Equalists there. Pema gives birth to her son Rohan. Tenzin, Korra, and the others make it on time to share a moment before evacuating to separate locations. Lin stays behind to stop the advancing airships from falling Tenzin. Korra gets wired to General Iroh. Come on,
Very good.
I had to write it down. I had to write it down. It was hard to be that concise, though, for me.
Listen, imagine what you wouldn't have covered if you didn't write it down.
I almost left out the part about Asami and Mako because I just literally could care less. But I was like, you know what? No, other people do care about them.
It happened. It's canon. We have to talk about it.
I'm just like, it's just not very important, you know? But then I'm like, that's not very nice. Sure. That's not very nice.
Okay. So we are here and we are excited because we are talking about yielding in this episode, and Kelly, you chose it. You clearly have something that you want to talk about. What is a moment of yielding that you want to address in the episode?
Well, I don't want to get to the big one yet. That seems like that's way too early. But I mean,
yeah, that's weird. Why would we talk about the thing you chose it for?
Because there's so many other little moments that maybe come before that. I guess we don't have to go chronologically, but I mean, I just talked about Mako and Asami, so we could probably start there. It happens early in the episode, so my brain will be able to handle what happens afterwards. Still,
okay,
but they're kind of at an impasse at this point because I feel like Asami probably wouldn't have even brought it up, but it's so in her face that Mako is caring for Korra that I feel like she has to say something. But at the end of the day, there's Mako just puts the kibosh on it, right? He's like, can we talk about this later? This is not really, and she just is like, there might not be a relationship to worry about later, which I feel like is an apt response, but it doesn't, she still has to just give in, right? She chooses not to push further into this at the moment. And I guess, I don't know, what would have happened if she had been like, no, we're talking about this right now. Or if she had just said, well, then we're done. I don't know. I wonder why she chooses to just be, not necessarily give in, but.
Well, I mean, I think, does she think that the situation at hand is more important, right? Or is she, what is the benefit she receives by forcing the issue, right? And it might just be that she's like, I don't see a benefit to finishing this now other than it being over, right? Maybe giving him time to think is actually going to be beneficial. I don't know that that's what's going through her head. Probably not, but
I feel like she's,
I mean, yeah,
too pragmatic for that. I feel like even though she said something, she's more well, we have stuff to do. So
yeah, that's my initial thought too, I think.
One thing that Oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead,
no, no.
Kat.
Go ahead.
One thing that I noticed this watch through of this episode is sort of comparing the dynamic of Asami, Mako, and Korra in this episode to Tenzin, Pema, and Lin.
Ooh.
Because this episode focuses a lot more on Lin and specifically her dynamic with Tenzin. Like Tenzin's like specifically said, like, "Hey, like I trust you a lot. Can you stay and watch my family?" And she says, like of course, old friend. I wish we see more of the dynamic between Pema and Lin without Tenzin, because we see a little bit of it, but it's clear that at the foundation of that relationship between Pema and Tenzin is like a deep amount of trust. And contrasting that with, it feels like a lot more insecurity naturally as teenagers we see with all three, like Asami, Mako, Korra, over the course of the season. I think that kind of stood out to me, where it's like they probably just aren't as comfortable with having those kinds of discussions. And I'm sure Tenzin and Pema probably have had those kinds of discussions in the past in great detail.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting there. I also like I had a little bit more compassion for Mako in this situation than I've had in the past. Where, you know, it is evident that Asami is thinking about this. And Mako's like clueless and is like, what do you, what are we, why are you mad? I don't understand. And I legitimately think he doesn't know. I don't think he's trying to hide. I don't think he's having that conversation trying to hide what he did, which I think the assumption has been for me sometimes where, oh, he knows exactly what's going on and he just doesn't want to talk about it. I don't think that's true. I think he legitimately has no idea why she's mad because he doesn't know that she knows about this thing. So why would it even cross his mind that she's upset, right? And so to me, I have a lot more grace for him being like, "Whoa, I am feeling a little blindsided by this coming up right now. That's not at all what I was thinking about. Yes, we probably should talk about, but right now is not a good time." So I had a lot more compassion for Mako than I have in the past. Don't know
I feel
how
like
that's true for y'all.
it's not, you know, actually I do think I agree with you in this exact moment. He is kind of blindsided, but I feel like it's more like, yes, he doesn't know, but also he's just intent on caring for Korra. He's not thinking like, oh, how's Asami going to take this? Like, because like you said, he doesn't know that she knows. So he's not thinking like that. But at the same time, when he says, what does he say? He's just like, can we just talk about this later? I feel like that is the wrong thing to say. Okay, just be like, hey, this is important to me. Right now is not the time.
Again, I don't to Rahul's point, I don't think he has the skills to say that.
Well,
Right?
you know what? Bro should grow up.
Well, I also wonder how much of this has to do with Asami finding out from Iki that Korra likes Mako.
Yeah.
And we don't know if Asami knows, if Mako knows.
Yeah,
Korra
that.
likes
Oh
it.
my God. Yeah, this is messy. It's so messy.
No, it's wildly messy. Yeah.
Wait, when Korra and Mako kiss, just remind me.
It's like
Did
episode
Korra kiss
2,
Mako?
3. Korra kissed Mako.
Okay, but
Yeah.
Asami doesn't really know that it wasn't like
Correct.
mutually like. I don't think it ever comes up either.
But Bolin says that they kissed last episode, but he
Yeah,
doesn't say that she kissed me, he
Korra.
kissed her. Like, yeah.
Ooh, I mean, I don't know if that makes it better, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
Anyway,
communication is not communicating here.
I can't remember chronologically. Did Korra kissing Mako happen after he and Asami started dating?
yes,
Okay.
Mhm.
I think so.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I think she was like, "No, choose me."
Yeah.
and he's
A
like,
little bit.
but Asami.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the question
Mm.
I think becomes when the question is about yielding, right? Like
Mm.
the I think I would not say Mako in this case is yielding here, right? He's not yielding by saying, let's talk about it later. I
No.
think if anything, maybe Asami is, but even
Mhm.
then she's saying, this is going to come up again, right? And I might break before that point, aka we might not have a relationship. So, if anything, it feels like Asami may be yielding and saying, "You're right. We can have this conversation later, if there is a later." Oh, but I do wonder how often this scenario comes up where this is a form of avoidance versus yielding, and thinking about what the
Mm.
difference is, where when does making space and pushing something off cease to be yielding and become avoidance, or is it just the intention to come back to it? Is it that like, I guess I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the avoidant partner in my relationship, so I don't really know. In my head, I'm thinking like, is Asami saying, "Fine, we'll talk about this later." In my head, as the non-avoidant partner, I'm like, "No, we can't let this go. If you let it go, yes, if the partner is being avoidant, they're gonna try to push it down the line, and you're gonna have to once again." So it's almost like, yeah, it's
Kelly says,
tricky.
I will not yield and I will not let you yield.
No, literally, literally. I listen, I've grown, but I'm just saying I'm Asami in this situation. I can't be Mako because I don't relate to him at all. But Asami's way more like level-headed than I am.
Yeah, it's interesting because when they get in the car later on, she says like, "Oh, like you sit in the back with Korra." So is the message there like, "Okay, you said you want to talk about this later. We're like, there's no us until we talk about this." Is that the
Mm.
Yeah,
message?
yeah, kind of.
uh
Well, and I think
that's an
Mako
interesting question.
isn't trying to assume, but I feel like he's kind of assuming, yeah, that the hierarchy is the same in their team. And Asami's like, no.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about that. I think that that's probably what it is in spirit, that like, hey, this is on pause until we have this conversation. But I think it's, no, we're together, and if you do anything between now and then, you would still be
Mm,
breaking our commitment to each other. So I don't think it is like, hey, we're paused until further notice. I, I
you're right. He's on the hook.
like, I don't think they're on a break until they have that
Oh,
conversation.
yeah, yeah. I didn't mean like
I think it
pause,
just meant that
pause.
he doesn't have access to, like, she's not just going to
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
him have access to her in the same way that he would
Yes.
before.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. I do like
Feels
this connection. I had never really seen this, love triangle. Oh yeah, there's a second love triangle here. Oh, and there happen to be paralleling each other. I completely went over my head. So I think that's a really neat, comparison to make. Um, there's something really interesting about that. Um,
who is who? Who is like, who's the parallel? So Korra is
Not a
who?
direct correlation, right? Like,
That's
is
what I'm
Tenzin
trying to think.
Mako and Korra is blah blah blah. I don't
Yeah,
think it's a
yeah.
direct
I
relational.
Yeah. I would say like in some ways you know Asami could be Pema, Mako could be Tenzin, and then Lin could be Korra. And Lin and Korra are like very similar in some ways, and that is a thematic thing over the course of the show with their tempers.
mm-hmm.
But that's besides the point. I
If it
don't.
was a true parallel, it would be Lin and Pima at the end together, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't really like, it's not, yeah, you
yeah,
can't like do a one for one comparison because it's just like, well, we know how it ends and Mako is
yeah,
alone.
yeah. And I mean, the dynamics are so messy among the three of them over the next couple seasons that like trying to attribute like, oh, this is this person, this is this person would break down very quickly, especially since like Mako and Tenzin are nowhere near the same in terms of how they operate.
No, not at all. Well, and if we go to the adult trio more directly when it comes to yielding, I guess I'm interested in the role discomfort like is playing, and because theoretically Lin is the one yielding here, where Tenzin is saying, hey, I know this is potentially awkward, but will you look after my wife and children? And essentially I'm asking you, are you willing to yield your discomfort, right, in order to do this thing for me? Are you willing to experience this yield of discomfort, right? If we think of it in that definition, to do this thing at my request. And she's like, of course I'm willing to experience discomfort for something that matters, right? And I think that's really beautiful. But to me, it sometimes saying like, are you willing to pay the cost? And I'm asking you to pay a cost to do this favor for me. Will you do it? That in a way feels like a yield of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think it's interesting, like right after that moment between Lin and Tenzin, where he asks her, like, hey, can you watch my family? Pema comes in and sees this exchange, and we don't really get a sense of what she thinks of this exchange, but like right after, she essentially hands Milo off to Lin, say like, oh, he needs a bath.
No issue, right? No issue asking that of her.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, like, I think this scene could be read in a couple of ways.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the way I read it at first is like, oh, like, you have this moment of like tension, and she's like coming in. She hears like, oh, like Lin can help. Lin is kind of a hard ass. I'm gonna make her handle Milo because I think that would be funny. There's also like Tenzin and used to date. There's this moment of tenderness. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm gonna cut the tension by handing off Milo to her. Whatever. Curious what you guys thought.
Well, I also see it as potentially saying, oh, Tenzin, you're going to ask this person that you know is an awkward ask, and you're going to do that, and oh, well, I'm going to make her pay for it then, right? Yeah. Like I could easily see it being like, okay, I feel like if you're going to put her in this situation, then I'm going to make it more uncomfortable, so she says no next time.
Yeah, right? Pema's like, here's a taste of my reality, since you thought you wanted to be here so badly.
Yeah, there's a ton of ways to read this, right? Like,
I don't think Pema's like malicious though. She's just like, well, this is the life. So you said yes, so
this is what this is what I took from you. Here.
Yeah. Well, and I also since we know that Pema basically like went after Tenzin, like she was like, I'm not taking. I feel like she has that spark in her. She's not just like naively being like, oh, well, thank you for helping. Here's Milo.
No.
No, she's not. She's
There's
not
intention
naive.
there.
Yeah.
It's a shame we don't see more Pema, because legitimately,
agreed.
I think she could be like one of the funniest characters in this show.
Oh yeah.
Just by like how she operates.
Yep. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. More Pema. Justice
like
for Pema.
Her facial expression when she says like, oh, like I'll give Asami and Mako a minute, and she's like,
yep.
I feel like she's not. I feel like she kind of maybe on like first watch she reads as kind of like a not a shy character, but kind of like, you know, just like, oh, okay, you guys do your thing. But I feel like she's not. She's like, oh, you two need to talk. I'll be outside. She's
kind of like the straight man where like everyone is kind of fucking crazy around her, like
yeah,
just reacting like only non-bender in this family.
Just the only character breaking the fourth wall all the time, being like,
jimming the camera,
Okay, well, we've spent some some time discussing these moments in the beginning of the episode. Are there other moments of yielding we want to talk about?
Yeah. Obviously. Okay, let's go. Well, since I had some time to think on it while we were talking about all these relationships, yielding in relationships, um, talking about like the greater conflict in Republic City and kind of I guess what struck me when I was like reading the episode synopsis to choose the lens and then watching the episode is that there's not really ever a moment when somebody says, we can't let the city fall, or like, we have to do this, or we can't let them, like, there's not really, at least not that I like clocked maybe as like outright, like the character saying, like, no, we can't leave. We have to stay. We have to fortify. We have to, like, every
Yeah.
moment that the next, you know, bomb, metaphorically and I guess literally drops, uh, they're adapting, they're adjusting, they're reacting. And I just thought that was interesting because I feel like a lot of the characters that are involved in this situation kind of have that habit of resisting and being like, no, we can't let Amon win. You know, we can't give ground. But that really never comes up. And I just thought that struck me as something you might expect those characters to do, but it just doesn't really ever happen. Even when like the final straw, when they're like, Korra, you need to escape the island, you need to get out of here. We're leaving. Nobody says, there's no like pushback. Not that there should be, but it just there isn't.
I wonder
Yeah.
because of like what they've just experienced in the past episodes and the trauma and just coming off of Korra being captured, right? So understanding the the severity of what Amon is actually capable of and like we still haven't learned who Amon is, right? But then that reveal of who TLOK is, and I think like for the adults, like I think Korra understands it, but especially thinking more of like Tenzin and Lynn understanding like what it would have meant if Korra's bending had been taken away, right? So now they're proceeding not out of fear, but all of a sudden like understanding that the rules of the game that they thought they were playing no longer apply, right? Like they are so outmatched by this foe. And even in like when we see all of the council people being, taken, my initial thought is like, at this point, like who else is gonna say like we can't let the city fall because their whole structure of people that would stand against have been taken individually. So now it's Tenzin, it's Lynn, and it's these teens, and then the only living airbenders that are all Tenzin's children, and then Tenzin himself, right? Of like that big picture thinking of we can't fight right now, and this goes into the yielding, right? Because we don't have enough resources, and the cost of what we could lose trying to stand in this moment is it outweighs what that possible, like even if it, say they were able to delay it a little bit, right? But it's so likely that people are going to get hurt, people are going to get killed, bending is going to be taken away, right? We see that at the end with Lynn, and it's all about, okay, in this moment Republic City is going to fall because we don't have enough resources right now, we don't have enough support to allow it to stand, and it's better that it fall, and these crucial individuals, as kind of like individualistic that is, but like long term they are thinking about multiple generations coming after, right? Because they also have probably heard so much, I would think, with Tenzin growing up, with hearing his mom talk about what the Fire Nation did to their tribe. And same thing with his like Uncle Sokka, right? And then like hearing how Zuko talks about what the Fire Nation did, right? There has to be so much wisdom in this isn't necessarily a weekend conflict anymore, right? Like this is turning into a full-blown war, and like we have to yield this city in order to have a fighting chance down the road to essentially like save bending as they want to, and like preserve airbending and preserve the Avatar line, right? Because otherwise, if Korra loses her bending, or if Korra loses her life, right? Now the whole cycle starts again. Anyway, my dog is being ridiculous. I will be back. Those are my thoughts.
The one thing that I'll add to that is like I think that's underscored by what Tenzin says in the very beginning, right? Tenzin knows Amon is about to make his move, right? It and says so, and there's an understanding that like, oh, it's happening. And I think that it's the idea of like a true understanding of ability, like an accurate measure of capacity and ability, is what is really integral to this. Like, I know what we're capable of, and we're not capable of resisting this, right? And so that is someone who has an outsized understanding of capacity or capability is going to be like, we have to fight back. But someone who has an accurate measure is going to be like, we have to make a calculated loss here, right? And so I do think it comes down to part of being able to yield well is knowing what you're capable of.
I think while you guys have been talking, an analogy has been bumping around my head for a little bit that might fall apart, and feel free to push back. But so like when we were talking about like denotation and connotation of yielding, one of the things that I brought up was how in mechanics and in engineering, an object has a yield strength where when you bend it, it starts to not bend back to its original shape. It starts to, deform plastically, permanently. And then beyond that, there's the ultimate strength. And that's where it actually breaks or fractures. And thinking about that in the context of Korra, I feel like there's a connection that can be drawn between a character like Amon and his goals, and say like the Red Lotus and like Zahir. So I think that the Red Lotus's goal is to take society to its ultimate strength and then like actually fracture it. What they do is they target world leaders and they actually take them out with the goal of like giving some authority back to the people and breaking the traditional structures that hold society in place. Like they straight up kill the Earth Queen. They try to kill Korra in the name of fracturing those power systems. I think what we see Amon do over the course of season 1 is take like targeted action in order to bend society into a more malleable form that is like manageable for him. Because like at the end of the day, he is a bender that is trying to exert control over people. And he does that by essentially like in this episode targeting multiple areas and trying to like see what is going to give. Like he attacks the city at the same time he's attacking Airbender Island, and he takes away Lin's bending, and all of these I think are just to serve to not completely fracture Republic City and how it functions, but more so to make it more easily manageable under his control.
Mm.
So I don't know, thoughts?
No, I think it's a really apt like thing to consider. It has me thinking about like a person's. I immediately started thinking about like military. Like military, where do they want to do when they're trying to form someone, right? Oh, they're trying
Mm.
to not bend them. They're trying to break them into and turn them into something different, right? Because what happens when a person breaks in terms of their character, right? In terms of their there's an interesting I could go on. I might be wrong. That was a not fully formulated, fully processed thought, so don't argue with me. But I do find it really interesting to think about a person's, what is this is where we bend, we're bending, uh-oh, we're breaking, we're broken. Um, and what that means, metaphorically speaking, is a very
Mm.
interesting question. But I agree that Red Lotus is trying to break, whereas Amon feels like there's a bend we're looking for. I'm not trying to break everything. Um, I'm trying to really take out these crucial points that allows me to bend it.
Mm.
Versus if I don't take out those points, it will break when I do what I'm trying to do. Um, or I will not be able to bend it to my will.
Exactly.
Vice versa. Yeah. Very neat. Very
Yeah.
neat. I like it. Um, yeah. Other moments of yielding.
Let's see. I mean, you know what? Actually, our that conversation kind of, which I feel like Ben, you were kind of getting into it, is almost about like that external yielding versus internal yielding,
Hmm.
and like what it means to not yield like within your heart, right? To not like give up. Like obviously in the episode we see their retreat, right? We see that everything the equalists are doing, it distills down to, okay, what do we actually need to protect? It gives clarity to what's actually important. And
Yeah.
then, but even while they're retreating, right, there's the characters are not lamenting. I mean, there's like a little scene that we could talk about with like between Korra and Tenzin about Korra's realization about, okay, what does this mean? But no one's lamenting. And even though they have quote unquote lost, there's also this point, right, where Lin protects, the retreat of Tenzin and his family, that she doesn't yield up until the very
Yeah.
end. So even though there has been this huge yielding, right, and she knows that this is not going to end well, personally in her heart, she does not give up, even though she's about to give up literally her personhood, like her
Yeah.
autonomy, but internally it's the opposite.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot here, I think, right? Where uh again, what is the cost I am willing to pay is a question that seems to be very related to yielding in this episode. We talked about discomfort as a cost earlier, right? We talked about an accurate measure of your capacity is going to help you yield and know when to yield more effectively. And I think in this case, it's similar, right? I know that if I don't resist, we'll all be captured. And while that is not my responsibility, I see the value of keeping airbenders safe as they are an extinct, very close to
Mm.
extinction, right? Um, and so it's this is the cost. The cost is me fighting here, and then what am I not willing to lose is my like integrity or my um. It's a lot like you can torture me all you want, but this is not something I'm willing to bend on, right? Is my who I am as a human
Mm.
being. Even though you can take my bending, you can't take this value away from me, um, which is protecting Korra in this case, right? Um, yeah, there's something very interesting, where it takes a different type of power to
Mhm.
externally break someone. Like, I can break your leg, but that doesn't mean I'm going to break you internally, right?
Mhm.
And so your flexibility, your flex point, your whatever Rahul called it earlier, is
Your yield strength.
your yield strength is different internally than it is externally, right?
It's my
Our
ultimate
mental
strength.
fortitude, right? Exactly. I feel like I've made my point.
I feel like all the
Other
characters have that in this episode. All the characters are extremely resilient within, even though they all know we're making a retreat. We have to give up. We have to give up our home, our literal home.
Yeah.
But I think all of them possess great internal strength in this episode.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that, Lynn is offered this choice at the end. And I think that, Lynn is the quintessential earthbender. Like, just like
Yeah.
Toph, she's like incredibly stubborn
Yep.
and brittle. And when she finally, breaks, she's going to break.
Yeah.
It's like much like a rock. If a rock is not going to bend, it is
Yeah.
going to like completely fracture. So
Hmm.
I think it also like I haven't thought about it thematically at all. So, but I think it's interesting that earthbenders, specifically Toph and the Beifongs, like they developed metal bending, which in many ways feels like the exact opposite of like traditional earthbending. And I guess we'll probably be able to talk about it more and what that means when we actually meet Su Yin and her family.
For
But the
sure.
fact that rock is so brittle and when it breaks, it fractures, and metal, its defining property is how structurally you can bend it and it maintains that shape. I'm gonna be interested to talk about that.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
The more I'm thinking about your analogy, Rule, the more I'm like really interested in this as like a framework to discuss. Just because, if you think of it like as in terms of like a spectrum, right? Everybody has a breaking point, right? And some people's window for yield strength, like for instance, a rock has very little yield strength, but uh, this the strength it requires to break it is significant, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the versus someone who is, oh, I can bend, I'm super flexible, but because of that, it requires this much. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just, there's a really neat um, concept there around like the types of pressure, right? And it can become infinitely more complex when you turn it from like a spectrum that goes from one angle to another. When you said, let's make it more complex by saying adding another complication. Like, what happens to that when we add high temp? What happens to that when we add a different stressor, right? Or a different kind of stress? And all of a sudden, your bending point is now a breaking point. And it's a lot like the concept of a window of tolerance, which
Yeah,
is super, super neat.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think our understanding of that too becomes something that's important, because we might make an assessment that we can like, this is Korra, right? Korra in the whole throughout the season is really learning how to judge her ability more uh accurately. She's like, I'll take you on, Amon. And she's like, oh, my breaking point, much closer to me than I thought, much more visible, much more like, ugh, and it makes her more likely to yield or to run. But I think what we learn in this episode in particular, like Cora is the one that gets closest to saying what you were talking about, Kelly earlier of she's like, shouldn't we stay behind? It feels like we're running. And I think Korra's response to Tenzin is, okay, we need to be patient. And so she is able to read it not as we're running forever, we're not giving up, we're running for now. And I think that there's so many things in this episode that tell us that yielding is not surrendering, retreating is not giving up, it's not running, it's using what we have and with an accurate understanding of what we're capable of and making the best choice we can.
Yeah. And if we're forced to yield, what do we do with that? If we're forced into a situation where we have to yield?
Yeah.
What can you make of that?
Mm-hmm. Well, the birth, right, is a really good example of that. Rock hard place. Okay, we're getting attacked. Can't change that. We're having a baby. Can't change that. We have to do both. There is no yielding to either, right? And so, like, rock hard place, that puts us in a position where, the children have to come into play, right? And we would have not had half this episode had the children not yielded to Lynn saying, you need to stay in your room, right? And they were like, nope, we're not going to yield here. And of course, it's Avatar that complicates this, but children shouldn't have to fight this fight. And yet people have put children in a position where they continually have to. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. So what you said, Ben, made me think of another moment that stuck out to me watching the episode, which is Hiroshi and Amon talking.
Oof. Nasty work, those two.
Hiroshi saying, like, it's so difficult to see my daughter fraternizing with these benders. And
with
Amon
these
saying,
benders.
Yeah. And Amon saying, like, oh, like, once we've gotten rid of them, you know, you'll have your daughter back again. And I think that's an interesting thing, because it's like, well, will he? Because, like, it's not like Asami's going to be like, oh, you took my friends, I guess I'll be your daughter again, and I guess we'll have a grand old time. It'll just be like how it was before. You're not just going to change her mindset like that. And, you know, to the point, like, I think Hiroshi thinks he can just sort of, like, you know, plastically deform, like, whatever, like, Asami.
That she'll yield, right? That she'll yield to him.
Mental state and, you know, shape her how he wants to shape her. Her values are her values at this point.
Yeah.
And they're independent of whatever he wants of her.
I think that's a really good way of thinking about how, like, there are so many issues with parents who force religion on their kids, who say, well, if you can't do that, then I'm going to make you leave this house, thinking that will change their mind, and that they'll beg to stay. And they're like, okay, bye, right? Like, a lot of times people will apply pressure thinking it will make them bend or change when they're like, oh, boundaries, what? And so people will apply pressure expecting a different result, not thinking it would break, not thinking it would do something, but instead thinking it will be formative in a way that is beneficial.
Yeah.
Turns out that's not true often, but so it goes.
It's like running into a wall and thinking it's gonna, like, give.
Yeah.
And then you end up getting thrown back.
And it actually hurts a lot more when you run into it that way. Yeah. Or when you take that step down and you didn't realize there was another step and you go too far and you're like, ah! Or when you think there's another step down, but you actually hit the floor and you're a little, I'm jarred by how close it was. It's not, I don't experience that daily. No, never. Anyway, other moments of yielding here.
I think I'm ready to move on unless anyone has something.
All right, well, if Kelly's ready to move on, then we will go
It's my
ahead.
episode.
Yeah, it is
we
her
will
episode.
we will go ahead and transition to Twee and La.
Do you
What
mean that you're yielding to Kelly's process?
I have text confirmation. Ben said he would yield to whatever I want.
this
He did
is
actually say that. He did.
I'm gonna
Maybe he didn't say that
Twee
exactly,
and
but
La. um so what pulls us in? What pushes us away?
I think pull for me is, I think, probably everything with Lynn in this episode. I think this is
yes.
a great Lynn episode.
Oh, it's so good. What pulls me in is these moments between like the kids in the family, like Iki, Janora, and like I was literally like tearing up. I was like, "Am I okay?" But I just thought some of these like moments between them when when Tenzin gets back, right, and they're like, "We waited up for you," and then she's like, "I was scared," and they're comforting each other. I was like, "Wow, that's so beautiful." What's it like to have
Yeah.
a family that loves you?
It's like, oh my gosh, they all like each other.
Yeah, I was like,
Wow.
wow, they're like providing, yeah, comfort, support.
Weird, can't relate.
Nope. We're fine.
Yeah.
What
Mm.
else? What else pulls you guys in?
Yes.
I think I love, so like going off of like what's already been said, but just like the transition that you see from Lynn's like not the way she perceives the kids, but kind of how like at the beginning, like especially with Milo, she's like, ugh, this child, right? And
Yeah, she
then
has him on the string.
yes, with this the string, and even with like the other two, right? Like she's very clearly like a woman of like, I know what I want. Is not, I don't want to spend time with these children. This is not what I asked. I like, let me fight, let me do the
That I can
thing.
relate to.
And then and then she's like, go back inside. And then they're doing all of these amazing, bending things. And then afterwards she's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, and that's kind of that, to watch that turnaround of, it's like it is their character, but like she then appreciates them and has like some respect for them once she sees their like fighting
Yeah, she sees their
abilities,
merit
right?
suddenly.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the moment where like they're flying away and Milo goes, that woman is my hero. I was like,
Yeah.
same, same dude.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, her arc in this episode kind of reminds me of Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park, where like his whole thing is like, I do not fuck with kids at all in the beginning of the movie. And then at the end, I think
Yeah.
in Jurassic Park, it is more of like there's more of an undercurrent of like, I don't want kids, and maybe, I don't know. With Lynn, I think it's more so like,
I'm done with that. I did
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have watched this episode and been like, these kids are dumb. They're taking away from my joy but
Same.
I also watched this episode the other half of the time, and like, of course an airbending child, of course, would learn how to fart bend. Like, that is just so, that is true of a
Yeah.
4-year-old, 5-year-old boy who can airbend. That is just something that they would try, right? Like, I cannot, like, it just makes sense to me. Like, and so is it like, oh, this is a kid and that seems like that's far-fetched. I'm like, I think that's like wildly accurate. And I think it just speaks more to my, like, where I am in my mental state when I'm watching. But like, to me, I watched it this time and I was like, no, that's super true to form. And like, I like, it just makes sense. So I was pulled in by it this time. Um n- Nobody's talked about things that push them away.
It's because I have one and I didn't want to be a downer right away.
It is time to down.
I guess we should have done them the opposite order. We could end on we'll end on a good thing anyways. But my push is, I don't know, I feel like the animation or like the dialogue there was a lot of like still scenes within dialogue coming from characters who are looking, I don't know. There was like some off stuff at the beginning. Like I got over it as we went in, but I was like, the animation just felt very still in a lot of spots, and then characters are talking, but then like the inflection, I don't know, I thought it was off.
I think it's probably budgetary because the next 2 episodes are a lot bigger.
Yeah, this is kind of like the calm before the storm, and but it felt like a lot of like backdrops with unmoving objects or like one moving thing, and then like the dialogue is coming from a character who's facing it, so you don't even see their. And I was like, ew, I don't like it, but I get it. It's fine. It just gave me the ick.
I didn't even notice.
It's only at the beginning, like, right? It's like it's like at the beginning, and then it gets fine because Lynn starts tearing shit up, but.
Other things that pushed us away.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough because like I think all of things that could push me away this episode, kind of like you guys have mentioned, on a different watch, could be like pulls. Like Mako in his scenes with the Sami. I feel like it's like a coin flip whether or not I'm gonna be like Mako lock in, or like no, I kind of feel, or like with the kids where it's like kind of annoying but like not unrealistic with the fart bending. So I don't know. I don't think there are any whole pushes.
Yeah.
That's the sign of a good show. Well, and it's often like a lot of times these things, animation potentially aside, a lot of these things that are like character based or intention based or scene based are like, well, most of the time I'm glad it's there because it's real, right? It's one of those things where like I can be like, oh, ugh, Hiroshi kind of a downer, but like that's the whole point. Right?
That's
like
the purpose of him.
And so it's one of those, like, that's kind of the whole point of the show of bending not breaking, right? Is like those moments are integral to our ability to grapple with the difficulty of real life. But they exist, and today Hiroshi is a downer, right? I like that is one of those things where I'm like, it even like on this watch felt like heavy-handed almost, right? Around like, of course he's short-sighted and doesn't really see the whole point, but to me it's like this episode is like, no, you're a little too blind. It doesn't feel real almost. It feels too heavy-handed. But had we watched through a different lens, we might have been like, no, that feels super real. Right? Other pushes?
I think I have just like, and it's like, because it's for comedic reasons and like it's also accurate, but like the councilwoman, right, who is the first one to be taken, like I always hate this scene where her husband is just like, yes, dear, or no, dear, and she's like, where are my keys? And like she's just like a bubbly, like it's very much the very like ADHD partner versus the more mellow one, but it's like it gives me the ick because she's the one who has a council person role, right? And then he's just like,
she's clearly leaving to go to a meeting, and then somebody knocks on the door and he's like, door, dear. It's like, bitch, I'm trying to leave, like I gotta go to work and you want me to go answer the door now? I'd smack him.
I flagged that when watching it and then forgot about it, so thank you for bringing it up.
Why would I get the door? Maggie. You're going out the door anyway.
Yeah. Woof. I think it's just too realistic, and I'm just like... Yeah. But it's also, like, I feel like it's one of those things that is put in there, like, is it there to make you think, or is it there to get a laugh?
Yeah, I feel like it's just supposed to be like a quick slice of life moment
Yeah.
to humanize this person who's about to get kidnapped. But
Hear about a spider rat infestation.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wish that her husband had answered the door and got tased first.
Also, spider rats, that sounds wildly awful. Like that is
Yeah.
something I never want to see animated.
Oh my
Like,
God.
I don't need that
Especially
on screen.
a giant one.
Yeah. Yeah, I want nothing to do with that.
I think it's based off of like actual spiders that are in Australia, right? That are the size of dinner plates.
Probably.
Yeah,
Rats can get pretty big, so I mean,
could
why
you just
can't a spider?
imagine a rat size, like a rat body with 8, like, oh,
Yeah.
like, all right, I found my push. I found my push. I want nothing to do with that ever. The idea
Oh
that
my
was
God.
created even is unacceptable.
It's canon, Ben. It's canon.
No.
You can't
No,
can't be erased.
absolutely not. Veto. They were all exterminated. That's yep.
Yeah. Well, 7
Um,
Havens, no more spider rats.
No more
right?
spider rats.
Yeah.
They were exterminated. Oh man.
That's why Korra caused this calamity. Like
Yeah.
people are blaming her. It's actually to get rid of the spider
Yeah,
rats.
she was
Yeah.
like, we gotta get rid of the spider
I
rat.
stand with Korra. That's what I.
Yeah.
Oh God. All right, let's move on to our intention practice, our elemental based practice, where we are thinking about setting an intention, doing an activity that is element based, helping us reflect on the episode. Kelly,
Mm.
you are super fiery, and it is your responsibility now to tell us how to fire.
Okay, well, I chose something that I knew that I could partake in fully, so I apologize if everyone else is like, why did you pick that? But I picked fuel for action. So our question is, what will keep your fire going this week? It's a question of motivation, self-care, and sustaining the flame of our purpose. So I've got a big week ahead, so I figured, never hurts to reflect on a Sunday evening about what you're going to do. Sunday afternoon, I should say.
For this, people recording, for when you're listening to this, it could
yeah.
be who knows,
Who's
but
to say? I have no idea.
yeah.
Never too. Yeah, listen, you can always reflect. You can always take a moment to realign with what's important.
Yep. Interesting. My workload, my caseload, over the summer, like naturally has a little bit of a decline. Just because everybody's going out of town, there's a lot more people who are like going on vacation, and everybody's like, "Why do I need therapy?" I'm like, "I got my summer off, folks."
It's warm. Yeah, I'm not living in
yeah.
a dark, cold hole.
So it is August, and I have gotten like multiple new appointments, which is for me a great thing. For the world, interesting. So I think part of the thing that I'm thinking about is I need a little bit of a reset because I've gotten used to working like 17-hour weeks in terms of like actual inpatient time, not my admin time, but like it's a big jump to go from 17 to 13 in terms of actual work and mental like capacity. And so thinking about what 4 more people a week does in terms of what it adds, and making sure that I'm really thinking about like going to bed a little bit earlier and things like that. So I think in terms of fuel, I'm like, I need actual energy, and sleeping will actually help me. So I'm thinking about my bedtimes and my wake times.
Yes, mine is really similar because next week I'm a teacher, so next week we'll go back to work, not with students, but our week before to get all the information, we get some training, there's probably going to be some keynote speaker, there's going to be different, things that I have to take care of, meetings to have and whatnot. And yeah, I obviously all summer have been doing, I've been doing a lot actually. I've been doing a lot, but not during the day, not at 7:30 in the morning. So yeah, I'm thinking about, okay, how can I take care of my body? Because I do a lot in the evenings already, and I don't want now exerting myself throughout the day to be taking away from what I already do in the evening. So I'm just going to remind myself that one, it's okay to rest. Like if I end up starting this work week and I just really don't have it in me to like push through my normal evening activities, that's okay. One, it's okay. But two, just remember that I'm so bad though. This is not good. Don't do what I do. But I always just remember that, I'm young and I have so many opportunities and I want to live my life to the fullest, even when I'm working and not use work as, also, oh, well, eventually I'll get back into it. I want to keep pressing forward as well. So I want to find some balance. It's always about
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not going to yield and I'm not going to let you yield. And that's just what you're doing to your body. Um,
Gotta keep it going.
Yeah. I think for me, so I guess over the last like several weeks, last few weeks, I've had a few friends that like, and I'm not going to be specific about this, that have been kind of like upfront and vulnerable about things that they're dealing with in their personal lives that they're sharing with like our friend group in specific ways. And I feel like it's the kind of thing that like when I hear about that, I'm like, fuck, like I had no idea, and it sucks to hear. But then also when I hear about the action they're taking about it, I'm at the same time like I'm like sad to hear they're going through it, but I'm also inspired by the actions my friends are taking and their openness to share it with us and discuss it and be a part of like community around it. So I think for me, that is something that like I would like to focus on is like weird analogy, but like I guess like in The Incredibles,
I love your analogies.
yeah, Bob Parr, like he has this whole journey of like, oh, like I don't feel fulfilled in my life, and so I'm going to like on my own try and fill this void that I have. So much so that the place that they send him to for his missions is No Man is an Island. No Man is an Island. And it's only upon realizing that his family now is the source of his strength and like makes him a more well-rounded individual that he can like fully embrace his own strength and like whatever. You get the point. So I guess like for me, it's like realizing like, oh, I don't have to deal with the shit that I'm dealing with on a daily basis like myself. I can rely on like community and like my support system and everything to move forward.
I had no idea it was called Man is an Island. I had no
I didn't know
idea.
that
Yeah,
either.
No Man is
Love
an
that.
Island.
That's wild.
I love The Incredibles. It's such a
Lord,
good movie.
it's literally such a
so
good
good.
movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Even better now. Even better now that I know that lore.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Well, it's so interesting because so like everything you guys said just makes me be like, yes, absolutely. I relate to that because as a like music teacher that does individual and a couple group classes, like the summer is really light. So it's very similar to what Ben just spoke about how some part of the workload has been lightened, but like the next week and a half is going to be like really busy of like starting to do my fall schedule as all of my students who have been off the whole summer. Like I have to reach out and there's a bunch of admin things that I have to do with scheduling with their parents and checking in about like their payment processes, and like we do contracts. So like what type of contract are they doing? And we also had like a really full week of karate last week, which is really good. And then usually I try to make the week after that a lot lighter for the physical side of things of like what my body struggles with. However, this week it's looking like that's not really going to be as easy to do. I'm taking on a new role in something, and I'm going to have to like be in charge of a lot more things and more people, and like there's going to be changes, and it's either going to go fine or it's going to be kind of rocky, and like kind of looking at how I'm going to have to like budget so much of my time of like, okay, I have to get this done this day, and then I'm going to have to like schedule like rest times in order to then make it to the end of the day, just because of the admin and now this like extra big responsibility role that I'm stepping into. And like there's just like within a week there's like a huge change that's happening, and that's fine, but I'm just also like, oh, but why is it this week versus like in a couple weeks or like a week ago or something like that, right? So it's always interesting how there's things that we can control and then so many things that we can't. So just taking those moments of like a couple days ago, I went in and I scheduled blocks of time of rest on my calendar where I have, okay, you're doing this and this for goal wise. And then I have like a 45-minute block of like, you need to rest. It says, do not be productive.
Yeah, you need it. You need it. You're so bad at it.
Yeah. So I'm like, we need to stretch and we need to let our body, like, because I'm already in like a lot of pain from all of the, physical exertion that I've had to do. But then this week is also as physically taxing, but it's going to be so much more emotionally and mentally taxing that I'm just like, ooh, it's going to be rough. So just taking those moments of, it's okay to not be productive, and it's okay to just lay down or take a nap.
Turns out it's more than just okay. It's actually refueling you, right?
Vital.
It's actually necessary rather than
building
okay.
that flame, right?
Yeah.
Making my flame be stronger.
Yep. All right, everybody, look at us setting some intentions, thinking about the elements and how they serve us, how we can work together with the elements in our lives, the elements of our lives. And now we're going to be grateful because that is a requirement for being a part of this. So, who are we grateful for in the episode and why?
Lynn.
Yeah.
Wow.
I see we're rushing for the low-hanging fruit. Okay.
Tell us why.
Someone say something. No, I just think Lynn is, I don't know, like such a deep character, and we'll be exploring her even more in later seasons. But I feel like this is like the first sort of like peak we see where it's like the moment between Tenzin and her. I feel like prior to this moment, I think if you were to imagine what it could look like of like Tenzin being like vulnerable and asking this question, she might like get uncomfortable and sort of brush it off, but instead she embraces that moment and says like, oh, like of course I'll help. And then her dynamic with his kids, I feel like is incredible. So yeah, I mean, and obviously the sacrifice at the end of the episode that she makes.
I think I'm gonna go with Korra.
Oh,
I know. I feel like in past watches of this series, it's hard for me to be like on her. It's hard for me to be grateful for her sometimes, but I think that she spends this episode being, in my opinion, at least, action oriented and not fueled by her own perception of like what this means for her as an avatar. We like past episodes, which like this episode is kind of like the acceptance of a lot of things, but she'd be like, I can't give up. I can't, like I'm going to be a failure as an avatar. This is going to mean this, people are going to think this about me. If I can't do this, then they're going to think I can't do other things. If I can't, a lot of her action has been driven by what she feels and thinks other people might perceive and her own perception of herself. But I feel like she's really action oriented in this episode in that she does what needs to be done. She protects the people that need to be protected. She goes where she needs to go. And even though in her heart there's still this like feeling of like, am I giving up? She's grown to the point where she can be like, no, this is necessary. This is what needs to be done. We go do it. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. 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 Pema is my choice. I think specifically for the moment where she walks out of the kitchen with Asami and Mako, it takes a lot of like awareness and maturity to not just like just walk out, but to actually name, hey, I'm going to give you two a minute.
Yes.
And so easily could have just kept washing dishes or whatever she was doing. I don't recall exactly what. Could have just kept doing what she was doing and just let them go at it and not say anything. But I think it takes a lot more like courage may be the operative word, but also just like emotional maturity to say, hey, I'm going to give you two a minute. And just name the fact that something's going on rather than ignoring it or trying to avoid like the discomfort of it. It's like, nope, this is not my thing. And you all need to talk about this. So I'm going to give you some space. And so I just think that I have a lot of gratitude for people who are willing to name the discomfort and not try to move around it without name the elephant in the room. That's my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so true. I'm really thankful for Tenzin specifically for when we get like these beautiful moments at the beginning of the episode where, he's comforting the kids and he's like, it's going to be okay. And then when we make it to the end of the episode and, is it Janora that says it's not going to be okay? No, it's, maybe it's Janora. I don't know. Anyway, one of the girls is like, it's not going to be okay, is it? And he, instead of trying to brush it off and, be like, no, it's going to be fine, is willing to be honest that it's not going to be okay. And especially because it's to his child and especially to like how the world and culture like treat children, like they are aware of when things are going wrong and they are so hyper in tune when even like maybe like it's not a physical thing that's wrong, but like an emotional or like mental thing that's wrong. They're so aware of that and then like continuing to like gaslight them or just lie to them and be like, no, it's fine, like everything's fine. And then they have to like deal with that and just treating them with like the respect of like, you're right, it's not okay, but like this is what we're going to do to try to be okay and safe in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that. I think like eh, the idea that you can say what is happening is absolutely not okay. Do I think that we will be okay? I honestly don't know, and we're going to do everything we can to try to make sure that we are okay. But I don't know, and that's scary. And right versus no, everything will be okay, which is just a very different like gravitas. And not, I don't want to minimize the fact that that question, right? Because it does turn out okay, right? What happens is not okay, but they do turn out okay. And so it's one of those things where he's not even lying if he says everything's going to be okay, don't worry about it. But it's not matching the energy and it's not like reading the room. So I just, especially for parents who can like hold the fact that children can be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hard.
Kelly's like, can't relate. It's like,
No, I mean, no, I can't relate. I was actually just thinking, I was like, and he states his number one priority as I need to protect my family.
Mhm.
And that's what hits home to me is like whether or not you're going to be okay or not, he's going to be right there. And his intention is to put them first.
Yeah.
You can't relate to that at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, definitely not. Well, folks, this has been another episode of Bending, Not Breaking. Korra
Woo!
for the second time. So thanks for listening and being a part of it. This episode will release awfully close to our transition episode to what comes next. So we are starting to release regular episodes starting in September for our next little journey. And this is going to be really interesting because it's also, theoretically, we have a season dropping in October for Seven Havens. So we have that, we have the movie, we have all kinds of fun things to talk about that will be coming up on the feed eventually. So here we go, a whole new era of Avatar. But for now, until next time, be well and do good.
bye.